Now students, in the continuation of the previous video of an apology for poetry, I am going to start the remaining portion. Poetry has in itself a capacity or quality to attract, ravish, or draw our attention. And when we are drawn and attracted by poetry, we are also affected unconsciously or unknowingly by its moral vision or lesson. The element of delight or charming sweetness is taken to be very important in poetry. T.S. Eliot also says that we pursue poetry because of the prospect of delight in it. The saying of Sidney, poetry teaches and delights us, sounds to us somewhat crude, old and conventional. It gives us the impression that poetry does two functions. What is the two function? The two functions are teach and delight, not in one time but in two times. It teaches us, then delights us, or delights us, then teaches us. But good poetry, as a matter of fact, does both these functions simultaneously. T.S. Eliot almost puts the same thing in a better way when he says that poetry is a superior amusement. Here, amusement stands for delight, and superior suggests some lesson or teaching. Sidney advances many reasons for the superiority of art and poetry over other subjects or branches of knowledge. He writes that all other things, all other beings like botanists, zoologists, physicians, astronomers, logicians, and chemists, etc., depend upon nature or facts. They are tied to facts and they cannot go beyond these. In short, they are bound by facts or are slaves of facts. Only poets are such and such who no doubt use and utilize facts, but they also go beyond them by virtue of their imagination or by their power of invention. Shakespeare also says that the poet's eye doth from heaven to earth to heaven. Poetry is superior to all other subjects, including history and philosophy. History is only a catalogue of facts. It is mostly concerned with events and incidents which have actually taken place or happened in the long past. History is only the slaves of facts. It is concerned with what is or what has been, and not with what should be. Poetry has decidedly an edge over history, in the sense that poetry, though deals with facts, yet mixes them with fancy and imagination, and thus extends the boundary of facts. A poet, like a historian, is not concerned with only how a thing is or has been, but also with how it should be. Thus, a poet, unlike a historian, brings to us an ideal to follow. His poetry not only soothes us and delights us, it also refines our cruder feelings, arouses pity and sympathy in our hearts for the poor, suffering, and the needy. In contact with poetry, we become better men, become more cultured, refined, and human. And poetry, according to Sidney, is much superior also to philosophy. Is no doubt full of high philosophical ideas or lofty thoughts, but it has not the charming sweetness or delightful vein of poetry. So, philosophy is high but dry, abstract, zigzag, and complex. It is not concrete and delightful like poetry. Philosophy is abstract and terse, but poetry is concrete, lively, and interesting. As poetry, according to Sidney, is a speaking picture or a figuring forth. The path of philosophy is full of thorns and complexities, whereas the path of poetry is, so to say, full of tasty grapes. Enemies of poetry, enemies of poets level three main charges against poetry, which are very well answered by Sidney. Three charges. There are three charges against poetry, which are very well answered by Sidney. The first charge against poetry is that poetry is less fruitful than other subjects. So men should spend time in these subjects rather than in poetry. The second charge is that poetry is the mother or center of lies. Thirdly, that poetry makes us immoral and cowards. Sidney replies that no learning or subject is so good as poetry because other subjects try only to teach us and not delight us. But poetry does both. Poetry teaches and also moves us to virtue. And poetry, according to Sidney, is not the center of lies. Poetry is not only fact, it is also combined with fiction. So the question of lying with regard to poetry does not arise. Sidney has raised up some admirable points which are illuminating for the readers of the modern time. Also, we often use poetry and verse in the same meaning, but Sidney has made a distinction between the two. He has made a distinction between the two. Verse stands for rhymes or outward garment. Sidney rightly says that poetry does not consist in rhymes. Poetry can be without verse or rhyme, and also there can be poetry in spite of verse or rhyme. Rhymes alone do not make for poetry. Poetry results from or consists in the dominance of emotion, passion, and feeling over reasoning or intellect. Thus, Sidney takes a modern and wider view of poetry. This was about an apology for poetry. Now, students, I shall see you in the next video. Okay, till then, bye.